The 2 or 3 times in my sobriety, actually more than that, the several times in my sobriety where I've been really in danger spiritually, where I've been just consumed with depression and a lot of emotional pain, I'm telling you, it's not the profundities of Alcoholics Anonymous that saved me. It is my commitments on Skid Row and the guys I sponsor that do something for me that I must have done at that moment. I must be relieved of the bondage of self. I must find a way to other-center myself to get me off of me because I'm dying here. And life, I'll tell you something, life will kick you. You don't get out of this life without having some bad spots. I don't know what your bad spots will be. I don't know if you'll get cancer, one of your kids are died, maybe your relationship falls apart, maybe your business falls apart, maybe you have a physical accident. I don't know what will happen. But I'm telling you, there are times that life kicks you, and it will always kick you in the direction you're facing. And you never know what's going to happen. That's why it's a dangerous proposition to walk away from some of this stuff and get out on the edge. Because if you're facing out of Alcoholics Anonymous and out of God's will and out of working with others and you get kicked, it will kick you in that direction. If you're seeking God's will and helping other alcoholics and it kicks you, it will kick you further into AA and further into recovery. That has been my experience. I've had some things hit me over the years, just out of nowhere. I'm telling you, just like a Mack truck. And thank God that when they hit me, I was facing into Alcoholics Anonymous. I was facing into these steps because I am a very weak of spirit individual. If I would have been out on the edge, facing out, I know it would have kicked me out of here. And I would be the guy, I wouldn't be up here this weekend. There'd be some guy up here using me as a bad example. Right? There'd be someone up here using me as an example for the new people of what not to do. Because I'm weak. Lack of power is my dilemma. And I must stay close to this power of grace. I would not be alive today, and I would not be sober if it wasn't for 12-step work. And I want to tell you, I understand that I'm a certain type of alcoholic, and not everybody in AA is my type. And in the book, it talks about different types. But I think Alcoholics Anonymous is really divinely crafted, especially for alcoholics of my type. I'm the type that left alone without alcohol and any kind of medications, I'm prone to deep depressions. I've always been plagued by that. I was told by one competent psychiatrist that I'd probably have to take medication all my life. And yet I stand here and I have had nothing in over 26 years, except Alcoholics Anonymous. I was told I'm also prone to bouts of just intense anxiety, almost to the point of panic. And I've sat here and I haven't taken anything in all these years for that either. I've taken nothing for this thing inside me except Alcoholics Anonymous. But I've had to do a lot of service here in order to maintain my emotional well-being. And I didn't understand why in the very beginning, I'm not even 30 days sober, and they got me doing going on 12-step calls, going back into the detox I was in. When I was 2 months sober, I was going into the prisons, and these old-timers, I think they couldn't believe they finally found somebody that would actually do it, I guess. I don't know. But I'd do it, whatever. 7.5 years of relapse makes you pretty willing. I'm doing everything they tell me to do. And I don't know why they got me doing this. At first I suspected it was some kind of pyramid thing. They were trying to expand. They wanted to send me out to recruit or something. I don't know what they want. That's not it. I'm about a year to a year and a half sober. And I'm sitting at my apartment. I've been to 2 meetings that day. I haven't worked the steps yet. I thought I did. I did a BS version of the 4-step, my life story. I had no infusion of grace. Nothing had really changed in me. And I'm in 20 meetings a week because I can't be alone much with me. And I'm nuts. And I'm prone to real deep depressions. And I struggled with it, and I didn't take nothing. And I went to another meeting, and I called my sponsor. And I go on a 12-step call. And I don't know why I'm doing this stuff. It doesn't seem to be helping. And I'm sitting in my apartment one night, and I'm really sinking into this abyss. And I'm the kind of guy that I can get these depressions where I get so sick that I can sit on a couch and I feel like I weigh 1,000 pounds. That I get so depressed that I can't move. It's that pathetic. I'm like physically debilitated. And I'm sitting on this sofa thinking about my life. And the more I think about it, the more depressive it becomes. And I realized that the job I have is going nowhere. And I'd lied to everybody at the club the other night, told them what a wonderful job I had. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized that those people are taking advantage of me. And I'm never going to make more than $5 an hour. My life is going nowhere. And I realized that everybody in AA is doing better than me. And when you're like that, do you ever notice that the more you think about it, the worse it gets? Right? And I'm still a victim of an illusion that I can wrest happiness and satisfaction out of this world by managing well, which means I think I can think myself out of a depression. It's like trying to dig yourself out of a hole. You just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And do you ever notice when you're like that? I don't know what it is when I'm depressed. I'm almost compelled to draw conclusions about my life. And they're always depressing conclusions. I mean, because it's such a self-involved state. It's consciousness altering. And do you ever notice when you're like that, it seems like you've always been that way? I remember talking to my sponsor one time. I was in a funk, right? And he said, this was earlier that year, and he said to me, well, how long have you felt like that? I said, I've always felt like this. He said, no, you were fine at the meeting last week. You were laughing with it. You know what I said to him? I said, well, I must have been in denial. But it seems that way. It seems like you've always been that way. You always will be that way. There's no hope. It's awful. It's a hideous... Self-pity and depression are hideous thing. And even though I was diagnosed as a guy that is prone to clinical depression, it's not really clinical depression. It's spiritual depression. What happens is my spirit gets smothered because I'm so overly self-obsessed. I just get myself right here. And I'm dying on this couch, and I don't know what to do. So I say a little prayer. I say, God, help me. And I look at the clock, and it's about 10 to 10 at night. And there was a 10:15 meeting, not too far, quarter mile, or maybe a half mile to a mile from my house, not very far, at a place called Duffy's up on the Strip, an old chapel up there. And I don't know if it was God's grace or a combination of God's grace and an extreme effort of will, but somehow I got myself off that sofa and I shuffled out to my car like a mope. I'm really awful. I even look depressed. And I shuffle out and I get in my car and I drive down to this meeting. And in front of the chapel, there's this billboard on the Strip, like where advertisements. And I park right under the billboard in case the pigeons want to desecrate my car. There would have been a rightness about that would have fit my mood. You know what I mean? Do you ever notice when you're like that, you bring it to you? You bring it to you. You just really. And I park under the billboard and I go into the meeting. And I'm sitting in the back of the room. And I'm thinking, I'm pondering my life, and I'm analyzing my emotions, and the more I do that, the worse it gets. And I'm doing that to the point where I'm not even hearing anything in the meeting. And in the back of the room, on the other side, there's a guy who's coming off a drunk, and he's in bad shape. And he's sitting there, I see him out of the corner of my eyes, and he's grabbing himself, and he's rocking back and forth like he wants to jump out of his skin. And then he can't sit still, and he gets up and he's pacing like a caged animal behind me, back and forth. And then the bathroom's right there, and then he's going into the bathroom. You can hear him in there dry heaving. And I'm telling you, this guy is annoying the crap out of me. I I got some serious problems here. I'm trying to figure my life out. This guy is really a pain in the ass. And so the whole meeting's over, and I hear nothing in the meeting. And I've been conditioned to help with service in AA, so I stay after the meeting, and I'm helping the secretary, Charlie, to set the chairs back up in the chapel and get rid of the cups and everything. And Charlie and I are the last two guys to leave the meeting, and we're standing on the porch of the chapel, and he's locking up, and Charlie's on his way to work because he works the graveyard shift from midnight on at this casino. And Charlie looks over, and I look over, and the guy that's coming off the drunk is laying on the ground in a fetal position in front of my car. Now, I am going to have to step over him to get in my car to go home and think about my life, which I'll tell you, I'm ashamed to admit it, I would have done if Charlie wasn't standing there. But Charlie can't help him because Charlie's got to go to work, and Charlie's going, what are you going to do? Are you going to help? Don't you help that guy? And I'm looking at Charlie, and I'm looking at this guy, and I think, oh, shit, you know. And I go over to this guy, and he's wet his pants. And I thought, oh, he stinks, and, you know, and he doesn't have any medical insurance and no money. And it's at a time in Las Vegas where the only detox that they had for indigent patients had been closed down. And there was a period of a couple years before they opened up another one that if you had a guy like this who was in danger of going into seizures or DTs and he didn't have any money or insurance, you had two options. One is you'd sit with him with a team of guys round the clock and give him a shot of whiskey every hour, or you'd take him to the county hospital. And I couldn't get the guys, and I had to go to work the next day, and I didn't know what to do. And so the only option is to take him to the county hospital. And in Las Vegas at that time, the county hospital was forced to take a certain amount of indigent patients because they got this federal money from the government, right? But they didn't like it. And I'd been down there on many occasions on 12-step calls, and they treated you like a redheaded stepchild. I'm telling you. They just let you sit there and wait, you know, and they ignore you, and they don't care how much the guy's suffering. And they treat you that way because some of those guys are repeaters. They're in and out of there, and they never get better. And they'd rather deal with gunshot wounds and people they can actually help, because they don't think they can help these guys. So I got this guy in the car, and I know what's coming, right? I'm going to be there for 5 or 6 hours with this guy. And I'm resenting it. And I'm in the car, and I ain't saying nothing to him. We're driving to the hospital, and I'm thinking, you know, isn't it bad enough that my life's crap? That I got to do this stuff too, you know? And doesn't anybody in AA step up to the plate here except me? You know, I'm gonna not get any sleep. I'm gonna be tired in the morning. I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna have a bad attitude. I'm probably gonna get fired, but it's a crappy job anyway. Who cares? I'll probably be homeless, you know. And you know, I'm just into it. And I don't say nothing. And I get down to the hospital, and we're sitting in the waiting room. And I'm giving him cigarettes. I tell you, back in those days, you could smoke in hospital waiting rooms. And I'm giving him cigarettes, and there's a machine there. And I'm going to the machine, and I'm getting these little cans of orange juice. And I'm going over to the coffee bar, and there's no honey, so I'm pouring sugar into them. Because back in those days, sometimes to bring a guy off a drunk, we'd give him honey and orange juice or Karo syrup and orange juice. So I'm putting the sugar. Yeah, it was horrible stuff. Make your teeth itch. I'd pour the sugar in that orange juice, and I'd take it over to him, and I'd give it to him. And he's a basket case. And he's starting to tell me about himself. And he's telling me about the shame and the guilt that he's overwhelmed with for the things he did to his mother and father and some of the women that he'd loved in his life, and how much he'd hurt them and how it haunts him. He's telling me about how he wished he could commit suicide, and he's thought about it for a lot, and he's tried, and he's just too much of a coward, and he can't pull it off. And then he said something that really got to me. He said, I don't know why you're wasting your time with me. You see, I'm not like you people in AA. I always drink again. And he's telling me about me. He's telling me about me. And somewhere in that couple hours in that emergency room, something inside of him just grabbed my heart. And I fell in love with him. And I fell in love with him for no logical reason. I mean, this guy's a bum. He can't do nothing for me. I mean, chances are he's not even going to stay sober a year and mention my name for credit or something. You know, this guy has nothing he can do for me. Nothing. Except that he suffered from alcoholism exactly like I did. And I think the thing that I was loving in him was the thing I never loved in me. And they eventually admitted him into that hospital. And I remember driving home in the wee hours of the morning and the sun's getting ready to come up. And I got tears running down my face. And I finally understood why the old timers kept hammering me to work with these new guys. Because they knew if I did it long enough, one day I would turn the corner. And I would get it. And I would get why I'm here. You see, at that time, driving home in the wee hours of the morning, I never felt more complete, more right about my life, more useful and more whole, ever than I did at that moment. I felt the presence of God in my life, and I hadn't even sought Him. And He just moved in. And I'd never felt so connected to this Spirit of the universe as I did at that moment. And I realized for the first time, this is my purpose. This is why I'm alive. This is how I get relieved of the bondage of self. In the prayer, something I had been asking God to do every day of my sobriety, and I didn't get it. That's why these 12-step calls were being through. And I go on 12-step calls with a selfish attitude. But they said if they knew Bob, if you keep doing it, just keep doing it. And they knew from the experience of Alcoholics Anonymous, if I did it long enough, one day I'd turn the corner. And that was my moment. And I've never looked back. I went through one period of about 17 or 18 years of sobriety to about 19 years where I got I still did it, but my heart wasn't in it because I got too consumed with my own self and my own stuff and my own toys and my own crap. But other than that period, in that about 19 years, I've never been off the path. And because of that, I don't suffer from depression. Because of that, I feel vital and alive. Because of that, I've claimed my inheritance, which was my divine right all this time, really. God always wanted me to just... all the stuff I went through, and the pain and the failure, all makes perfect sense in the light of my primary purpose, which is the 12th step. Remember, in step 7 and step 3 in the prayers, I'm not asking God to do any of this stuff so I'll be happy. I'm asking Him to do it, to relieve these things, to take away these things for one reason and one reason only, so that I will fulfill my primary purpose, which is not only to stay sober, but to help people who suffer from alcoholism like I suffer from alcoholism. In the long form of the 12 traditions, it doesn't say it's our primary purpose. It says it's our primary spiritual aim. And it cautions us that problems of money, property, prestige, authority, business, relationships, all the things that can divert us from our primary purpose. And some of you may be new and you would say to yourself, well, yeah, that's all this altruistic stuff is fine, but what's it have to do with me? I assume that if you're like me, you came here really because you came to Alcoholics Anonymous because you didn't feel very good. You didn't like your life. You maybe pretended you did. You didn't like yourself. Maybe you pretended you did. I'm telling you, if you fulfill your primary purpose, all the holes in your life that you've tried to shape up and fill up, that failed to fill, will fill as you fulfill your primary purpose. It is my destiny. And if that's then everything, even the mistakes the things I will risk today in my sobriety, the chances I will take, I'm not afraid of the failures because I know something. I know something that a year from now that will become useful to some guy that I sponsor. There's nothing out of place in God's world when you have a purpose. When your purpose is you and your gratification and your happiness, this is a vacant, desolate universe. It's an empty universe that you can never get enough stuff to fill. You can never get enough sex. You can never get enough toys. You can never get enough attention. You can never get enough validation. Because if you could, there'd be somebody in a meeting one day saying, hey, I finally got enough. This is just right. And then he would come up with a seminar telling you how to do that and charge huge amounts of money for it because you'd pay anything to get that. You'd pay anything to get that. But we do this thing for fun and for free because we don't get paid for any of this. I want to read something and I'll close with it. It's a poem. I hate people that read poems in AA meetings. I don't like that. I don't like people that read poems in AA. But I'm going to risk being a guy I don't like. Because this poem has meant so much to me. And it was written by a guy who's mentioned throughout AA history. He was not an alcoholic, but he was one of the major contributors to Alcoholics Anonymous. He was Bill Wilson's spiritual advisor in the days when Bill was on fire, when Bill was at his very best. When Bill lived in New York City and he was part of the Oxford group, and he was down at the Calvary Chapel and the Calvary Mission working with those homeless drunks. And when Bill was happier than Bill had ever been, this was Bill's spiritual advisor. And he's a guy named Sam Shoemaker. And Sam was the leader of the New York chapter of the Oxford group. He was a minister. And you got to remember that most of the Oxford group didn't like us. They called us the drunk squad. And even Buckman didn't care that much for Bill Wilson. Buckman and some of the higher ups in the Oxford group Bill wanted to go help these homeless guys and these drunks at the mission. They wanted him to go talk to the captains of industry because they knew that those guys could fill their coffers. But Bill wanted to help us. He wanted to help the people that nobody could help. And Sam watched Bill. And he watched what he did. And I don't know that he wrote this poem for Bill Wilson and the early members of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've never read anything that is more of what we do than what Sam wrote here. The first time I read it, it brought tears to my eyes because I remembered the people that did this for me. It's called I Stand by the Door. I stand by the door. I know I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It is the door through which men walk when they find God. There's no use my going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside, and they, as much as I, crave to know where the door is. And all that so many ever find is only the wall where a door ought to be. They creep along the wall like blind men with outstretched, groping hands, feeling for a door, knowing there must be a door. So I stand by the door. The most tremendous thing in the world is for men to find that door to God. The most important thing any man can do is to take hold of one of those blind, groping hands and put it on the latch that only clicks and opens to that man's touch. Men die outside the door as starving beggars die on cold nights in cruel cities in the dead of winter. Die for want of what is within their grasp. They live on the other side of it. They live because they have not found it. Nothing else matters compared to helping them find it and open it and walk in and find Him. So I stand by the door. Go in, great saints. Go all the way in. Go way down into the cavernous cellars and way up into the spacious attics. It is a vast, roomy house, this house where God is. Go into the deepest of hidden casements of withdrawal, of silence, of sainthood. Some must inhabit those inner rooms and know the depths and heights of God and call out to the rest of us how wonderful it is. Sometimes I take a deeper look in, sometimes I venture in a little further, but my place seems closer to the opening, so I stand by the door. There's another reason I stand there. Some people get part way in and become afraid, lest God and the zeal of His house devour them, for God is so very great, and He calls all of us. And these people feel a cosmic claustrophobia, and they want to get out. And let me out, they cry, and the people way inside only terrify them more. Somebody must be by the door to tell them that they are now spoiled. For the old life, you see, they have seen too much. Because once you taste God, then nothing but God will ever do anymore. Somebody must be watching for the frightened who seek to sneak out just when they came in, to tell them how much better it is inside. The people too far in do not see those near to leaving. They are too preoccupied with the wonder of it all. Somebody must watch for those who have entered the door but would like to run away. So for them too, I stand by the door. I admire the people who go way in, but I wish they would not forget how it was before they got in. Then they would be able to help the people who have not yet even found the door, or the people who want to run away from God. See, you can go in too deeply and you can stay too long and forget the people outside the door. As for me, I shall take my old accustomed place, near enough to God to hear Him and know He is there, but not so far from men as not to hear them, and remember that they are there too. Where? Outside the door. Thousands of them, millions of them, but more important for me, one of them, two of them, perhaps 10 of them, whose hands I am intended to put on the latch. So I shall stand by the door and wait for those who seek it. I had rather be a doorkeeper. So I stand by the door. And I want to thank the members of Alcoholics Anonymous that watched for the scared, sick newcomers that had no self-esteem like I did. And the people that came into the hospitals and institutions that I stayed in. And that do today for the guys that are just like me. And the people that stand by the door and make this all possible. Thank you for my life.
Hi folks, my name is Maggie and I'm an alcoholic. And this is the final portion of our weekend retreat in the Fellowship of the Spirit. We like to lovingly refer to this portion as the letting go of old ideas portion. And basically how this works is 40 odd people are going to come up to this mic and introduce themselves. You can use your full name if you choose to. Which, by the way, I'm Maggie Carroll, and I'm an alcoholic, and proud to be. What has been discussed here this weekend, Bob facilitated a whole bunch of new thoughts and new ideas. And what we're trying to do with this portion is to come up with some conclusions about old ideas that may be a block to our spiritual growth and our wellness. So, without further ado, we're going to get Carol to start this process off, and then she's going to become the police here, and she's going to be guiding people up, and you've got 1 to 2 minutes. And try and keep it within that because she's a pretty tough cop. So, without further ado, Carol?
Hi everyone, my name's Carol Lalonde and I'm an alcoholic. I'm also known at this retreat in the Fellowship of the Spirit as Christmas Carol. And today I got called Christmas Elf. But the calling I got to participate in this was from God. God called me to this retreat 3 years ago. And I just like to kind of do a little sales pitch here. If anybody's out there, purchased this tape and haven't attended this retreat, it's a wonderful, wonderful time. It's a real renewal of hope and spirituality for me anyway. My old idea was that I thought I had to be that you get your closeness to God in your first 3 steps. And if you didn't get your closeness to God by then, you know, you were in trouble. And you know, from what that's gone on this weekend is, as you go through the steps, especially 4 to 9, that's you're clearing the path for a closer relationship with God. So that's my new idea that I got out of the weekend. It was a really great weekend. Thanks to the committee and Maggie. It's been a true honor working with you. Thank you. Next.
My name's Barry Byman, and I'm an alcoholic. When I first come across the brochure to come to this retreat, I said to myself, I needed to be here. I've been in and out of this program for many years, and today is 88 days clean. That's the longest I've gone in a couple centuries, or a couple decades. It seems like a long time. But I'm here today, and there's one thing I have learned, and is my ideas, the old ideas, or not the right ideas, or not the proper ones. It's one thing Bob's shown me through 2 days, that if you don't know what an analogy is, phone 1-800-BOB. I've read the book, and I've kept reading it, and they tell me if I keep reading it, I'm going to come out with something different every time. Well, absolutely. When somebody can put an analogy to something of 4 sentences, and you have a different angle to look at it, it's pretty cool, because it sure opens up something for me. And I think it's the willingness to want to live. And I want to live. I don't want to die. So for me is, I'm tired of the games up here. I'm tired of the trying to keep score of 50 tennis games. And then Bob again come and give me a basketball game to look after. It's time for me to hand it over. I need help. And for the grace of God that has brought me here today, I will hand it over for Him to take me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
I'm Sally, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm from Calgary. Hi. What I want to say is that the first time I heard in a meeting that people in AA are intelligent people, I was quite shocked, because I felt really imprisoned, disempowered, and basically stupid. It's taken me a long time to get some things. Other parts I can quote, by heart. But I'm not sure I understand what I'm reading or telling you. I guess what I'm going to let go of, because of this retreat, is that it's not just about changing ideas, letting go of negative beliefs, old mental patterns of thinking. I'm going to let go of the burdens. I am going to let go of this pain. Suffering is a choice, they say. And since I've been in this program, I have started to do my emotions, of course. And that was actually the first gift I got through my first step 4. And when you looked at my part, when I had finished my first step 4, you would have thought I was an angel, because I was kind and considerate. I was all those wonderful things that I really believed about myself. And life just didn't go well, even after step 4 and 5. And I had to I just had to survive. That's all I could do. So I don't think I did much growing, and I've only come to that lately. And I survived and carried on. Got some sober time. It's only 181 days today for me. But it's the last time I'm going to do 181 days. You know, it turned out that I've done 5 step 4s. I had a lot of negative beliefs. Bob called it psychotic fantasies about who I was. And, it was really painful and very accepting of me to face the fact that, yes, I was the cause of the effects. And I took the responsibility. I no longer really blame anybody, and I'm certainly not a victim because I keep coming back. And in the end, this summer, although I felt like I'd been gutted and ripped apart a few times, decapitated, it was in the summer that I got this pain that just sort of ripped me apart. That's all I could feel. I mean, I felt it physically, and I was broken, totally broken. And I'm not sure I really progressed in 7 years, but what I did find out is that because it slipped out at an AA meeting, I really have the primary belief. I thought my primary fear was abandonment. But it turns out that I felt worthless and undeserving of love. It took me a few days to say it again and again till I got it. And now when I look back on things, it's like we've learned here, I created exactly what I feared. Because I wasn't worthy of love, I also sacrificed, pushed myself too far, and depleted myself. And for me, yes, I've been diagnosed with clinical depression. I'm like Maggie, I have a psychiatrist too. And what happened to me in all this struggle, because it started out with my depression, is that I feel for me, my depression, which they say started in childhood, that's what they say, but it kept developing and developing, and I know it's easy to slough it off as just depression because everything's so negative and black, but it's so painful. It's absolutely so painful, and I don't know what happened this summer, but I actually feel that a lot of the depression is gone, and for me, it was about denying my spirit, who I was, because I needed love and approval, and so I was not authentic. And I guess the only thing I know now about myself is that I am not worthless and unlovable, and that's about all I know. It's not about me being more than enough or less than enough. It's just about we're all in this together. And that's all I know about me. But it's progress.
Thank you.
Thanks. My name's Doug, and I'm an alcoholic. Sharing our experience, strength, and hopes. Well, Bob shared his experiences of the 12 steps. Even touched on the 13th step, as known in Canada. And all his sorts of aspects, his stories. And this is what sticks to me. Having been sexually abused as a child, part of my past, my drinking career, and how the strength of Alcoholics Anonymous has helped me through different things in my life. Losing a sister 6 years ago, to my first grandchild, born a year and a half ago. And he sees me, and his face lights up and his arms go up. So Alcoholics Anonymous has helped me through the highs of life and the lows of life, and getting through on a grounded day-to-day basis. My wife is also an alcoholic, so we share a lot together. We went for a walk yesterday and shared some different thoughts on different things. And it's through everybody here that the strength that I am no longer alone. And this is what I want to give thanks for. Maggie, Carol, they always seem to have my my best interest on their outlook. So I'm getting even with you, Carol, because I'm saying your name. Maggie, oh, they always have a hug for us. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Martin, I'm alcoholic. I was going to go back to when I first got in the program. My wife left me, so just to get this straight. And I was going to meetings in Saskatchewan, long ways. And when I got back, I went to my sponsor one time and I said, you know, I met these two girls. And went to meetings over there, and anyway, his eyes got big, and he says, I don't know if that's a good idea, but being in a saunas program, I couldn't wait no longer, and I said, it's Karen and Sharon, and so that's why I'm here today. It's Karen and Sharon, and it took me a long time to get to tell that. You know, I just couldn't help it no more. I had to tell him about these because he was getting kind of shaky, and his wife was going, you know. So anyway, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's got committees up here. I think Bob talked about them committees. Oh, and anyway, I'm trying to take a more spiritual part of life than when I come here. That's what I'm going to try and take back home. And it's good to be here. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Gail. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Gail. I probably gained at least a half a dozen changes of thinking this weekend. One of probably the most important for me at this time in my recovery is I am, for the very first time, able to see a purpose. And in seeing that purpose, it's diminished some of the pain. It's diminished some of that, why me? And it feels okay. And in that, there's such relief and serenity. Because I didn't want to be an alcoholic. And that when Bob said, I am you, you are me, it meant, it just turned something in me. And I am you, and you are me. And I am no better, and you are no better than me. And I had done the opposite of, I never felt I was better than you. I felt I was less than you. But I no longer feel that. And from that, I will take the most positive change of thinking that I could possibly do for myself for this next year of my recovery. Thank you.
Hi friends, my name is Ron, and I'm a grateful alcoholic. For me this weekend, it hasn't been so much of what I'm letting go of what's just reinforced what was early in my sobriety was taught to me by a man who I've grown to love, and that was my first sponsor. This is a very simple program. I'm the one who's going to complicate it, but it's very simple and it's laid out for me, and all I have to do is follow what's laid out in black and white in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not any more complicated than that. I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be sober, and every year my sobriety date is the 21st of December, and I'm not there yet, I realize that, but every year I give myself a special AA Christmas gift, and this year it's this, to be here with you. And my friends from Cochrane will be really proud of me because one of my character defects is podiums, microphone, and crying. I'm not going to do that today. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Rob Patterson, I'm an alcoholic. Like the man before me there, I'm not sure if I let anything go this weekend, but it's reaffirming or reminding me, which I need to be reminded constantly, is that my primary purpose. I forget that. My ego takes over. I think I can live off of the work I've done, And, I haven't had a drink in 13 years, and life is 100 times better than it was when I was drinking, but I can't go on like this. I have to get back to the basics. So I really appreciate this. This retreat was amazing. I feel that maybe I'm facing the right way, as Bob was saying, spiritually, and thank you very much.
My name is Leanne Kramer, and I'm an alcoholic. I got a lot to let go. I think the number one thing, though, is this time frame. I keep putting myself on this time frame that I should be better now, or I shouldn't think like I'm thinking now. It's only been 2 years, and I'm like, okay, I should be well now. And just learning what Bob said about that circle, how it goes up. It doesn't go straight. That was refreshing, because I thought, well, aren't I ever going to get normal? Maybe not normal, but not so judgmental or not so selfish. Is it ever going to go away? But knowing that it's never going to go away